Welcome in on a Friday. And we've got a massive football game to talk about. But it is taking everything in my power. First of all, I want to say we need to support Rico today. Rico's not in a good mood, not in a good place. He's very bummed out. He watched his team quit last night. It was the worst football game in the history of the NFL. Devondre Campbell walking out on your team.
Mike, it's exactly where you want your Giants to
You're
be.
tanking for a pick.
Yes.
I love this. So
There's no point.
I'm just telling people be nice to you.
Oh, no.
Now,
I'm happy.
It's taking everything in my power not to bring up something non-Lions to start. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and at some point I'm going to have this conversation with Kenny. Maybe the 4 o'clock hour is the better time.
You know what? Let's just do it now.
Okay.
I always say go with your passion.
I want to ask a question. Like, one of my favorite movies of all time is Office Space. I just genuinely adore the movie. Not only because it's generally how I feel coming to this office, but it's just funny. I just love it. It's a late 90s classic. And there's a line in there. You know, what would you say you do here? And I'm starting to feel that way about Steve Yzerman because I last night again, but I went down a rabbit hole. No one. Now, I have tried to find out, and then I talked to Kenny, right? Kenny hangs out with a lot of hockey losers. But those are the people that got the scoops. Like, you're sitting there last night, and some goofball scores 4 goals for the Flyers. It's not even one of their best players. And I'm going, what did Wallman do to get thrown in the garbage with such force by Yzerman that you had to attach a second-round pick to him? Mind you, Wallman has gone to San Jose, plays 22 minutes a night, which is a massive amount of ice time, and is on their first pairing. And even if you go, well, that's the Sharks, he'd be on your second. And he has 20 points in 26 games. Meanwhile, we're here looking at a collection of defensemen nobody likes. Mm-hmm. So, terrible trade. It's terrible, but no one criticizes Yzerman. Then you go, well, he brought back Patrick Kane. Kane stinks. Unplayable. Tarasenko, nice signing. Unplayable. So then I went down a real rabbit hole, and I go, in now 6 years, has Steve Yzerman signed or traded for a single difference maker? A difference maker. A star. A high-level player. And Kenny looked at me, and first he hurled an ethnic slur at me, and then he goes, "You're not wrong." So I said, then what do you do here? Oh, by the way, since the beginning of last season, 16 NHL head coaches have been executed, fired. And we sit here with Lalonde. Mm-hmm. He doesn't make trades. He doesn't make good signings. He won't fire the coach. What would you say? And by the way, well, just wait for who?
Yeah.
Okay? Marco Kasper's here. Is he a revelation? No. Is he, quote, fine enough? Sure. Kosa, I don't know who he's going to have to kill to be called up and to stay here, but he ain't here. Kenny, I know I'm not making Wallman this unicorn, but like, does Yzerman have to sign a guy with stage 4 cancer to incur criticism? I mean, gave away a guy who'd be your second best defenseman.
I'm not Kenny, and I'm not a hockey elite.
I've heard that.
I thought the Wallman was setting up the big signing. Like, okay, I'm going to clear out some space and be prepared to be wowed. It was Kane.
So when you ask that question, what has he done? Who has he brought in that's high level? The answer might just be Jake Wallman or Shane Gostisbehere, who's both no longer here. And the thing that I say he does is he brings in talent from the wait-and-see pool, right? Lucas Raymond, Mo Sider. Marco Kasper is 20, so I'll defend that still a little bit. He's still got a lot of growth to do, but he's in the lineup right now, cracking the lineup at 20. Simon Edvinson looks really nice, besides an unfortunate giveaway.
How's he doing on his non-first-round draft picks?
On his non-first-round draft picks is still up in the air.
Okay. How's he doing?
Right to be critical.
How's he doing on his pro scouting?
Awful.
Okay.
Terrible.
The Wallman thing. How has this gone unchecked?
Inexplicable. I still don't have an answer. I've checked every podcast, every person writing about hockey, and most people are just scratching their head going, well, what was the plan? I still don't understand that. Everybody says the same thing. How have they gotten better? And I can't answer it because they've actually, because Kane last year was productive. This year he's terrible.
He's awful. He's unplayable.
So you could argue they've gotten much, much worse.
Well, they are.
Right.
They're not even fun to watch. And by the way, the Lalonde thing does strike me as, okay, wait a second. Now, at what point do we get to blame Steve Yzerman? 16 teams have whacked their coach. That's over half the league since the beginning of last season. A couple of teams who fired their coach last year made the playoffs. And this year, a couple of teams who have fired their coach have caught fire since firing their coach. What would you say you do here?
My guess would be that Lalonde, if he's fired in season, it won't be until the All-Star break.
It'll be too late, though.
I agree.
I'm not yelling at you. I went down a rabbit hole, and then you texted me last night. You go, the sad Kenny meme is out there. It's public. You had a meltdown. Now everybody gets to see the sad Kenny meme.
And most people weren't even making fun of the meme. They were just like empathizing and going, yeah, man, this is freaking terrible. I don't know what I'm doing here. Why am I watching this?
But like, imagine, I was wondering, how did the meme get out? I'm like,
imagine if Brad Holmes attached a second-round pick to a player and that player turned into a star. He'd get his ass ripped. Not Troy Weaver, Trajan Langdon, or if it was Scott Harris. Scott Harris has done a hell of a lot more than Steve Yzerman in a hell of a lot shorter time. And that's in a sport that has no salary cap. But that Wallman thing jumped out at me because we sat there when it happened and I go, how is that? That's got to set up a superstar.
Exactly.
Or, and I admit this is me saying this. There's no proof and I'm not slandering anyone. I went, oh, he's either a really bad guy or did something really bad. And we just got to get him up out of here. There's no proof of that. Now the guy's the best player on San Jose, which ain't saying much. But you could make a case Wallman would be in your first pairing. You attached a second-round pick?
Yeah. See, I thought, okay, this is part one. Wait till you see part two, and you'll understand that, and part two never came.
I just last night, 4-1 loss. Talbot, fine enough. Maybe that should be like the tagline for the Red Wings 2025. Fine enough? Question mark? Like, I don't
right up there. Well, I'll take that.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going, but I always wonder how Yzerman escapes criticism. And maybe it's that no one cares. Maybe that hockey in this town, outside of the hockey elite, which is a very small number, if the Wings aren't going to be a playoff or Stanley Cup contender, no one cares and nobody will write about it. Nobody will talk about it. But I don't know how this guy doesn't get criticized more. I don't. That Wallman thing looks like an abject disaster a third of the way through this season where he's playing 22 minutes a night, which is like Ray Bork ice time. And this guy's got 20 points in 26 games, and it represents your biggest failing. He's a guy that can move the puck out of the zone, carry the puck through the neutral zone. He's a guy that had speed. I mean, I'm a horse's ass when it comes to hockey, and you know that. So both productive defensemen were ushered out. In the name of what? Lieutenant Dan Petrie? Guy's got no legs.
I'll tell you this, though. You say, why doesn't this guy get more crap in terms of Steve Yzerman? The Steve bots are less and less in number by the week. There's been a lot more criticism of him that I've noticed, whether it be, of the podcasts or national media that I listen to, or in terms of like the social media bots that usually would just defend him blindly to the death. They're limited in numbers now.
Kenny, I think they're beating
fewer and fewer.
I think they're beating men. I think they realize I backed the wrong horse in this race. And
if they lose to Toronto, which they should, if they lose to Toronto, they won't?
They will. No,
okay.
They will.
And then they get a rematch with Philly. If they lose those two games, realistic, Lalonde fired?
No.
Kenny, that'd be 7 out of 8.
I agree with you. I would have fired him last week. It's not up to me. But I'm telling you what's going to happen, just like I told you what would happen with Kosa. What did I say would happen? Talbot would be back, and he'd be back in Grand Rapids.
Right. He hasn't hired a difference maker at coach. He has not been able to draft difference makers. Now, again, you want to call Lucas Raymond? Fine. We'll go with that. My point is, your job as GM, it's not about just the first round. You got to find some players. He hasn't signed a difference maker. Everything is just filler.
And the problem with depth draft picks is a lot of them take even more time than the first round ones to get here. So he's selling you, he's selling you Ken Holland. He's selling you the 10-year Ken Holland electric boogaloo.
And meanwhile, they sent Costa down, which was the only reason to really care about watching this team. Last night, 4-1. I know, we'll get the Bills-Lions. I wanted 1 or 2 segments on this. That Wallman thing, Rico, I went down one of my rabbit holes, and I'm just like, any GM in this town makes that kind of move, they get snowballs thrown at them.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, because remember, it's bad enough if you just put Wallman in like a picnic basket and said, "Here, San Jose, just take him." You attached a 2nd-round pick to him, only for him to flourish, while we are sitting here with one-legged defensemen, and no one says a thing. No one.
Mm-hmm.
We were all waiting for the next shoe to drop, and it just never did. Then we signed or extended Patrick Kane, and that was
which is a disaster.
Absolute.
Tarasenko, Petrie.
No, Petrie is not fine enough.
Talbot.
Yeah, that's actually fine enough. I like Talbot.
But you get my point.
I understand your point, and I still don't understand the Jake Wallman thing. And anybody who's been around hockey does not either. Everybody still questions it.
So despite the ethnic slur directed my way by you, you don't think I'm out of line.
No, absolutely.
When I saw the ice time he was playing, that was bad enough. Then you scroll over and you go, 20 points in 26 games.
I mean, somebody's got to do the scoring for San Jose, and you give that guy first-line minutes, but still.
Hey, Kenny, hate to break to you. Somebody's got to do the scoring for you.
I agree. We can't get out of our own zone, though. That's the problem. That's why we lost that game.
It's almost like the 2 defensemen that could help you with that, you let go of.
You said it, man.
Fine enough. 248-539-9797. Lions Bills is going to be 2:30 and beyond. It'll be complete talk coverage, the whole bit. Sweaty TJ will be in here at 3 o'clock. I don't know what's going on with that guy's body temp. He'll come in here. Make sure you get a towel for the guy, will you, please? TJ walks in looking like he's in a sauna.
Man's got a busy day.
Of doing what?
I don't know.
Scratching his chandelier? Guy's retired. Right. TJ's activity level. Fine enough.
You know, he's got kids, man.
Oh, there it is. Weaponize them again.
I got kids, man.
That was a Prince Fielder. I got kids, man. We'll take a few calls, and then we'll get to the prop bets and Derek Stevens and everything.
I wanted you to get this out.
I'm pissed. I'm tired of this. Ridiculous. Go ahead. Read something.
Mike, could I interest you
No.
in...